One of the sadder parts of watching anime is how, even though they are typically more common than male characters, it is very hard to find an interesting and unique female character. In most shows, they tend to fall under typical archetypes like the tsundere, the yandere, the kudere, the dandere, and so on. And while the characters within these archetypes aren't necessarily bad or unentertaining, they're still stereotypical characters. Sure, you've got standout shows with awesome female characters like in Kill la Kill or Yona of the Dawn, but even so, most are whiny, annoying, and uninteresting. So, when I do come across an anime that seemingly sports remarkable and unique female characters, I will automatically be interested in the show, even if it turns out terribly. That's where Kara no Kyokai, or Garden of Sinners in English, comes in. Probably my favorite movie series of all time, it has many interesting and tragic characters to analyze and talk about. But for my favorite female character in anime, I've chosen Shiki Ryougi, the main female lead. What makes her so special that she stands out among the crowd? Well, sit back, relax, and watch on as I explain why in the third installment of Fangirl February. Keep in mind that I am basically going to spoil the entire series in this video, so if you haven't seen Kara no Kyokai, please do so before watching this. If you've seen it or haven't and just don't care, let's get started. As stated earlier, Shiki Ryougi is the main female lead of the Kara no Kyokai franchise, a series of movies animated by Unlimited Budget Works. I mean Ufotable, however the heck you pronounce that company's name. Seriously, does anyone know? The series is based off of light novels written by the same guy behind the Fate visual novels. In other words, it is Type Moon property. And at least in my opinion, Kara no Kyokai is leagues ahead of Fate Stay Night in nearly every way. Fate Zero is another story, but that's another topic for another time. Kara no Kyokai is not limited to the typical visual novel structure, and it shows through its narrative and experimentation with theme. Many ideas are displayed and discussed in the movies that are thought-provoking, but a downside is that the movies have questionable dialogue and too much that they wanted to discuss, which is its main problem. The movie focuses too much on ideas and concepts that are out of its reach, causing many people to call the series pretentious. And I would be inclined to agree if not for the 7th movie. By now, you're probably thinking, what the heck does this have to do with Shiki Ryougi? To answer your question, it has everything to do with Shiki Ryougi. For the first 6 movies, Shiki was really a mystery, and nothing about her makes any sense. At times, it felt like her characterization was lost because of the endless discussion of innate topics and no display of her own interests or desires. In the second movie, which is her first chronological appearance, she's shown to have 2 personalities. Shiki, who is distant, cold, and emotionless, and Shiki, spelled with capital letters, who is fun-loving but has an incurable bloodlust. At the end of the second movie, Shiki tries to kill Mikia, the main character of the movies, but is hit by a car. In the 4th movie, which comes next chronologically, it is implied that Shiki has been killed due to the car accident, leaving the first personality alone. The 3rd movie shows that, however, the remaining Shiki is still violent and bloodthirsty, which at least led me to believe that Shiki definitely left a negative impression on the current Shiki. In the 5th movie, we learn that there are mages who specialize in bringing out the darkness in humans, and it is shown that Shiki was involved in this somehow, as the mages are trying to bring out the evil side of Shiki once again. Something to take note of is that, in all of the movies, the opponents were originally normal human beings who went on violent rampages once they encountered a mage. Then, the 7th movie happens. We learned that Shiki was involved with the mages, and that Shiki's bloodlust has been partially cured by Mikia. In order to keep Shiki violent, the mage Arya uses the obsessive Leo, and scary as heck, to bring Shiki back. This leads us to the most important part of the movie, watching Shiki become more human because of Mikia's influence. When Shiki and Mikia are talking over the phone, they are arguing over whether Shiki should kill Leo, with Mikia stating that he won't forgive her if she does. This ties in both of their progressions as characters, Shiki becoming less of a monster and Mikia learning the harsh reality of our world. Later on, Leo nearly kills Mikia, and Shiki, thinking that Mikia is dead, kills Leo. However, when the two finally reunite, Mikia says, "I forgive you." In other words, Mikia accepts that not everything can be solved peacefully, The entire message of the movie is to learn how to compromise, because there are no issues that are completely good or completely evil. All of the characters Shiki defeated earlier had some sort of emotional baggage or were innocent victims, but because of their destructive nature, they needed to be stopped. Shiki is different, however, because of her attachment to Mikia. He is what makes her human. Shiki Ryougi is a very special character to me, and not because I can relate to her on a personal level. Yeah, it's kind of hard to sympathize with someone who is essentially a psychopath, and admittedly she isn't the most complex female character I've ever come across. But much like what the movie series she comes from, I don't really mind. I love how Shiki is different, interesting, and so unlike any other character in composure and conflict. She has to fight so many people who are trying to turn her into a monster, and she uses her own methods to do so. Even when Mikia doesn't agree with her, she still goes off and does what she thinks is right. Sure, technically she's killing hapless victims, but each person was so ravaged, broken, and depressed that maybe they were better off. It's kind of like the morally gray ending of $1 Million Baby, or the actions of Don Vito in The Godfather, or the entirety of Mystic River. It's made to make you think. This is how themes are presented to the audience, through character personalities and their reactions with others. I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with these ideas, by the way. I'm just trying to say what I believe the movies are trying to convey. I've gone on and on throughout my career as a reviewer about the definition of pretentious, calling Psycho-Pass pretentious, Codebreaker pretentious, Sword Art Online 2 pretentious, and so on. But pretentious is something Kara no Kyokai is not, for the most part. The ideas it tries to convey are all tied in somehow, with Shiki being the perfect example of this. Her development reflects the ideas of morality, with Mikia's character being the juxtaposition with his naive mentality. On top of that, she's also pretty awesome. Like I said in my introduction, it's really refreshing to see a strong and female character like Shiki, since most are pretty archetypal and weak, unfortunately. So that's why I like her so much. She's unique, conveys interesting ideas throughout the series, and is very fun to watch. So I hope you enjoyed the third installment of Fangirl February. I'll see you all next time for the final installment, the Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 review. Until then!